Hey, this is Seagrove, and welcome to the LAIC Meta Forecast. I'm joined by three wonderful guests who've given us their time to help us get prepared for our events. I'll be going to a cup myself, but for everybody else who's got events this weekend as well, hopefully this will be really helpful for you all. Let's start with some not invitations. Introductions. English, yes. It's my first language. So, Aaron, why don't you start?
My name's Aaron Tarbell. I used to play a little bit, and I also only know about half of English as my only language. So,
Awesome. Jack, why don't you go?
Hello, I'm Jack. I'm one half of the channel OmniPoke, and yeah, not going to LAIC, but really excited about the Paradox format. Been playing a lot of it, so yeah.
Absolutely. And William.
I am William. I'm a Latin player and really excited about the LAIC 1 week.
Yep. Awesome. Before we get into it, William, are you familiar at all with the city?
São Paulo?
Yeah.
I live in South Brazil, so it's kind of far off São Paulo, but we used to play the nationals over there, and we do have regionals every season in São Paulo, so yeah, but almost always for Pokemon.
Okay. Do you have any like restaurant recommendations for folks?
Meat, like barbecue.
Oh,
ones.
the Brazilian,
yeah,
yes, it's famous,
yes,
right?
This is Brazil experience.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so I have a few questions for you all. The first one, we were talking a little bit about Charizard ahead of time. William, obviously, big Charizard fan here, so I was wondering what you think about it in the current meta, and is the way that you all played with just the Pidgeot and the Entei still the best way to play it?
Okay. I feel like the best way to play is still with Pidgeot. I'm not really afraid of the Devil TM right now. I'm not seeing like a lot of decks playing. Maybe Judge Path Mew. I don't know. Maybe Iron Valiant, but Iron Valiant doesn't seem real to me right now. Doesn't look like a real threat for a big tournament like this.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just Pidgeot is just way better than Bibero.
Mm-hmm. And are you playing more than one Charmeleon now?
Yes, I'm playing 2 Charmeleons right now, but I'm not sure if you need to.
Okay.
Because it's just an open it's just a super open format, and you have too many things you want to counter, and you don't have the space for that much. You have like 2 or 3 slots on your list, and I'm not sure if the Charmeleon is gonna be there. You have a Jirachi for Lost Zones for Giratina or whatever. You have Justifying Gloves, super good right now for Charizard Mirrors for Rolling Moon. I don't know. You have Choice Band for Lugia, Choice Band for Giratina and stuff. So you want to play too much, and you don't have that many slots.
Mm-hmm. Jack, I saw on your tier list you put Roaring Moon really high. What's your favorite way to play it right now?
Roaring Moon's an interesting one. I think I've pretty much settled on the Moltres build being my favorite. I don't know that it is the best, but it's definitely the one I've been enjoying the most. Joe and I did a huge amount of testing with like a really turbo build in the first couple of weeks, or a couple of weeks before Paradox came out, and it was really impressive. But it felt like something was always missing, and I think even just adding a couple of energy switch to that turbo build might be enough. But I've really liked just having the constant. It's not really, I guess, pressure because Moltres isn't that great of an attacker, but just having that constant way of still getting you surplus energy and an excuse to play like even more energy switch and stuff. I still think it pops off as much as it does in the turbo build. I also really wasn't a fan of how sort of all in the turbo build was on like cross switches and all of this kind of stuff.
Right.
I feel like I've started to play a little bit more conservative. It probably doesn't get the turn ones as often with the Moltres stuff, but yeah, that's kind of how I like it. I also think what's the card? Brute Bonnet and Morpeko. I think they're both really important. I've tried with like each of them, but I think I've basically settled on both of them as a one count because they both serve such different purposes. Morpeko is a card that I really underrated, so that's probably been the card that has impressed me the most.
Same.
A quick note on the whole like water energy switch stuff. I'm not convinced by it. I get it, but I'm not really convinced by it. I think Roaring Moon is already like Roaring Moon's best asset is the fact that it's just a racing deck with a couple of really efficient one prizes. So I think trying to do too much cutesy stuff kind of takes away from the fact that it's probably one of the best racing decks in the game.
Okay.
So just lean into trying to take 2 prizes every turn, and if you can't do that, weave in your 1 prizes, and I think you'll get like 1 in 10, maybe 1 in 15 games where you get the Greninja and it's crazy, and that will give you rose tinted glasses, I think, and it's just not worth it in my opinion.
Sure. So Aaron, I always associate you with control decks and such, and that's why I was asking you about Snorlax. But you said you're not a big fan. Why don't you like Snorlax, and what have you been liking instead?
So the big reason I don't like Snorlax is the reason I don't like mill decks in general is you require one really good game where you have to take off, and then you have to not drop the second one, and then the entire time you have to hope your opponent is kind of permitting you to finish a game. And also, just like while this happens, I also just like it gets really tense whenever you play decks like that, and someone starts to try to do shenanigans, right? And so I just prefer to enjoy my life a little bit more. But so what I've been doing instead, because you're right, I do have a tendency to, especially like formats with Itemlock, I was always in there. Without any like nice hard counter decks that kind of stop your opponents from playing cards, I've been getting more and more aggressive. So right now I'm just like I've been messing around with putting in Iron Hands and everything because taking every good deck currently, giving it an extra prize at some point makes it just inherently better, right?
Sure.
Chen Pao isn't quite my style because I like to play the game. So I've been more on the Miraidon where like you can just play a Nest Ball and like you're playing a game no matter what at that point. It's been working really well. Like I think most of the changes to the deck is just that I run a DT now and Iron Hands, and it's slightly better than the Zapdos that everyone said was bad, but I forced into the deck myself.
Yeah.
So
that actually leads perfectly into my next question, which was, what is your favorite deck that plays Iron Hands? And Aaron, so it sounds like it's Miraidon for you.
I do like Miraidon right now, mostly because I can get off in Iron Hands without having a stage 2 setup. And I'm not sure if Lost Box manages it very well, so Miraidon's just been my go-to, and it's been working out pretty okay.
William, what's your favorite deck with Iron Hands?
Chimpao. You can beat everything, but it's fun about Chimpao. It's really easy to lose to anything. You know, so many times you just open it with I don't know, Alana, what's it called, the Frigibacks, and in other games you have everything and you just beat everything. It's super fun to play. I will definitely never play a tournament like LAIC with Chimpao, but it's my favorite way to play the Iron Hands for sure.
And Jack, what about you?
Yeah, I think I agree, but that's just because I prefer playing Chimpao to Miraidon. Miraidon might actually be a better user of it. I agree with you, Aaron. I don't think it really. I think it's too much work in Lost Box. I think it sounds cool, but it turns out to be too much work. So yeah, it's somewhere between Miraidon and Chimpao, but I'll say Chimpao just for fun because it's a more. I think it's a more fun deck. I also agree with William that I would probably never play it to a major though, because it feels like every game you look at your opening hand and you're like, okay, we're either playing or we're not, and from there it just sort of it's great. It feels like when you're sitting against it, everyone always has perfect turns, and when you're playing with it, you look at just a hand of bricks. But yeah, it's a really fun deck when it works. But it's like a live deck only for me.
And just to follow up on it, the other reason that I am just like more into the Miraidon version is I get scared of Iron Valiant right now because I don't know if anyone else has been having the same circumstance, but I've been getting like the turn one meta jam on me every time.
Yeah.
With a lot of decks, and relying on the stage 2 that's going to get meta jammed is kind of scary.
For sure.
For sure. For me, it feels like not a loss for Champa.
Yeah.
Any Iron Valiant deck.
Yeah. The next question was, what are your thoughts on Gardevoir? So we had a lot of doomsayers saying, Iron Hands ends Gardevoir, but looks like Gardevoir is doing really well. Luke Morsa won a big tournament with it and didn't play any Battle VIP pass, interestingly enough. What are y'all's thoughts on Gardevoir? Jack, why don't you start?
Yeah, I mean, I still think the deck is insane. I think it's still the strongest 60 cards in a deck. I still think it's the best deck in format, to be honest. I think there's a couple of things it still needs to worry about, but I still think inherently in a wide field it's an insanely good pick, and I think it's still a really good pick for this weekend. I don't know about Luke's way of playing it without VIP. That does send shivers down my spine, because I feel like all I ever want to do with Gardevoir is just get into the game, because if you get into the game, you can do basically anything. And I'm not entirely convinced on some of the things like the cape that he played. I feel like they all eat into consistency cards when, again, I just want to play the game. I'm already having to cut to like a really low ball count just to fit in like the Arven package if I'm playing it or anything like that. So
Right.
yeah, I'm not super convinced on his list, but it works for him. So I like huge props to him. It was a big win. And I think, to be honest, if like he won a nearly 300 player tournament without VIP pass, that again shows the power of the deck. Like when he was getting into the game,
Right.
I saw some of the turns he was taking with the cape, and it was just nutty. So like it's one of those. I feel like it was. I can see why people kind of thought it was the end for it. There's a lot of things out there, or especially in this set, that look kind of sketchy for it, but it's still insanely strong. I'm kind of an Arven believer still. I still think Evo just again gets you 2 Curliers, which means you're like a couple of ball search cards ahead of where you would be if you're not playing the Arven stuff, which can basically mean that you can actually start taking a knockout on turn 2, which Gardevoir can never really do consistently. So when you're now also not necessarily a deck that always goes behind, but you still have access to reversal and countercapture as well, yeah, it feels. I think Guardi is like as good, if not better, than it's ever been, even though that it's probably more volatile in the format. I think just countercapture and the TM alone make it really, really scary still.
William, what are your thoughts on
it's a different way to go to the same place, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel about the deck, William?
I actually did not see this list without VIP passes, but someone told me something about this weekend when I was testing it, and what he said is just that it feels like too much trust on the Mirage step. It's obviously an insane card, but I don't think you need to trust too much on Mirage step with this step. I feel like Gardevoir is still a Tyrone deck, for sure.
He was going 4 level, 4 Fog Crystal, 4 Ultra Ball.
Wow.
And at least 2, maybe 3 Artisan. So
it looks constant.
I think that was the idea.
Yeah, but I feel like the problem with Iron Hands, it would just be a problem in the Chien-Pao matchup. And I don't feel like Chien-Pao is going to be too much played like right now. Maybe Miraidon could be a problem, but Miraidon cannot cycle Iron Hands one after one, So I feel like Iron Hands is not right now a big problem to Gardevoir. I feel like Iron Valiant is a bigger problem because it's too many small bases. But for sure, Tyrone deck.
Aaron, do you have anything to add to that about Guardi?
No, I think Guardy's really good. I think Screaming Tail is pretty fun. I'm not gonna add too much over like the between Iron Hands and Iron Valiant. It's kind of scary, and the fact that Roaring Moon that can just kind of keep up with you. And um, but my question for the people that have been looking at the list a little bit better is, how do you guys feel about Cape versus just the Bell? Or the plus 100 HP, give up an extra prize, but it's just plus 50 HP on the basic.
I think it is tough because again, because they're both not consistency cards. I feel like I really have to be pressed to put one in. Um, I think I'd probably try out the cape. I can't say I've tried the cape, so I think I'd definitely try out the cape because I feel like it can lead to a couple of situations where basically your attackers turn into Zacian, which is really good. I think there are games at times with Guardy where you have to completely rely on Zacian and then sometimes even attacking with it twice because it's the only thing that can like reach over the top, and it means that you don't have to rely on reversal. But again, it feels like now we have reversal, you can probably just get away with playing. You don't necessarily have to play cape because you've got your kind of damage boost in reversals. I guess if you're playing cape, I guess if you're playing like Screamtail, both work, but cape doesn't necessarily. But the charm doesn't necessarily work on Baby Guardy, which is important. So probably cape, as long as you. Yeah, I was going to say as long as Guardy's a deck which has the luxury of not necessarily having to discard a load of stuff, especially with the way it's built right now. So you actually can keep these random cards and just keep IOing them to the bottom until like the last turn of the game, where you actually don't really feel the negative of it, I guess.
And do you think the Screaming Tail is worth it at all?
I think so.
For sure. For
Definitely.
sure.
Because you kind of said that you weren't playing at all. You're like, yeah, it's not.
Yeah, I haven't been playing it, but I think I've seen enough from it to be convinced that it's worth trying, and there's probably enough Luminion and
It's hard to cover the whole deck with the Scream Tail.
I think there's probably enough Luminion and Squawkabilly right now that it actually is worth it. It probably does take you 2 prizes quite consistently. Joe was much more of a hater on it than I was initially, and he sort of like convinced me that it wasn't great. And I think we've both pretty much come to the realization that we probably undersold it, and it actually does have a bit of a bigger impact. It's one of these cards where again I feel like I always want a ball search card over it, but if enough people play it, enough people like the deck just then has to play it because it just becomes like inherently part of the deck. It's like you can't cut Cresselia, even though people could start completely respecting Cresselia or whatever, just because it does such good stuff. So yeah, I feel like it probably has to play it, even though I'm always going to wince when it means cutting like a ball cert, like a fog crystal or something over to play it. But it actually is, considering it's a pseudo boss in a deck that wants to IO every turn, it's pretty good.
I like, so it can do what Zacian can't do, which is attack early. In most decks, you can't attack with Zacian early because you're giving up 2 prizes, but Screamtail can do that, and it can snipe a Squawk without the tool. And then late game, it becomes Zacian with the tool, and you don't need a boss. So, like, yes, you have to find the tool, but sometimes you had to find the boss with Zacian. So I like it a lot. I think it's really good.
Yeah, you have the counter catcher Iono Screamtail shenanigan when you can stall a heavy retreat and just you pretty much win the game.
Okay, so that's enough on Guardy. We talked about Iron Valiant a few times. I've really enjoyed it with Entei. What do y'all like it to pair it with? There's Jolteon. There's just by itself with the Xatu. What do you all like to pair Iron Valiant with? Jack, why don't you start?
I'm really interested in the Entei stuff. I haven't actually played the Entei build too much, but it actually seems possibly like one of the better ones. After my initial week of testing with Joe, I really was not convinced by Xatu, and I think I don't know. It just felt like it was trying to do too much, and the Zatus were too fragile, and it was just I don't know. It's weird. It felt like the turbo build was almost too all in, trying to like it had really polarizing matchups. But then the Zatu build had much better matchups because it had various different options, but it was just way less consistent in actually doing anything. So I still think the turbo build's really, or like the rapid strike build's really fun, but it's again, like I say, super polarizing deck, and I don't think I could ever take it to probably a regional and an international. I don't even know that I could take it to a cup, to be honest, because it's like you see some matchups and you just completely give up. But yeah, I haven't tried out the Jolteon or the Entei variants, but I think they both seem really interesting. I think Jolteon might be a bit too fragile realistically for it to be super successful, but Entei's probably tanky enough as a two prize basic to actually lean into it a little bit. I think Valiant is really underexplored, and obviously some people, including me, was super high on the card, and it's not really turned out that way. But I feel like it's going to be one of these cards which people will forget about it, and then it will like completely tear up an event, and then everyone will remember it, and no one like it won't be able to be played for like 3 or 4 events. So it's a super strong card. I think it's probably right for LAIC because I think the format's a bit too wide. But if LAIC like narrows the format a little bit, I feel like we could find a way of breaking Iron Valiant. But yeah, I think Entei is the one I want to explore the most because yeah, it seems like it pairs the best with it. It's a super efficient, low maintenance basic that you can just. It reminds me a little bit of like the Suicune Ludicolo deck, just in kind of a different way where you're just buffing your damage here and there, and you're actually getting to relevant numbers where Entei would normally fall off. And you get to play Radiant Charizard, which is cracked in this format, so that's always like a benefit.
Aaron, what's your favorite partner for Iron Valiant?
Well, I was playing the Entei build a little bit. It's very fun because you get to go off with Entei like very consistently and always get some damage on the board. I was struggling a little bit whenever I was playing the Entei, mostly because the build I was playing wasn't like very supportive of Metacham, and one of them didn't even play Metacham. And I do feel like it's probably the best combo with Iron Valiant, just being able to do more Iron Valiant stuff and take an extra turn. So I did see a list earlier today that played like 2 double turbos that seemed pretty good and like less jets overall. And so I think Entei's really good. It's an aggressive deck, and being aggressive and being able to win 2 games in 50 minutes is always strong. I early on I was playing against the Rapid Strike build a bit, and I got Metachammed a couple times too many, and so like I went first, they go turn 1 Metacham, and then turn 2 Urshifu things, and apparently that doesn't happen all the time, but if they do that, it's pretty good. And then I tried it once, it didn't happen, and I was very sad. So I feel like we're on the correct path. I feel like Entei's too aggressive and too efficient of an attacker, and too consistent for turn 1 for it not to be one of the better versions. And then as far as Jolteon, I don't know, VMAXs are rough. That's all I got though.
So
300 HP VMAXs are really rough.
it sounds like you're heading towards. It sounds like you were looking at the list that I've been playing. I mean, like I didn't come up with it, and I just found it as well. But the double DTE, and I found that I still am not meta-jamming very often with it.
Oh yeah.
But William, what's your favorite Iron Valiant partner?
I have actually tested Iron Valiant a lot because it was for sure my favorite card from Paradox when the leaks. My first build was a Japanese build that I saw was like with generators and Iron Hands and Raikou Zapdos. It was super cool. Yeah, it was super cool, but I couldn't beat Mew even with Dragon and whatever, and I just discarded it. I tried with the Urshifu, and I didn't really like it because it's kind of harsh to do the what's it called, the Urshifu VMAX name of the attack, the 120. It's super hard to do, and the empty version I really like it, but you can't beat Charizard with it.
No, you cannot.
Even with the Devo TM, you can beat Charizard Pidgeot, even without Pidgeot, because you can never do the Pidgeot, but you can beat the deck. I have tested another list that I saw from Japan, last done list with not exactly last done, a chorus list with Cramoran, like 4 chorus and 4 lost vacuums. I love it. It's super cool. It's super fun. You attack with Cramoran almost every first turn, and it's my favorite one for sure.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. That sounds great. So I'm glad you brought up the Raikou thing. I was about to ask if we can play it with Entei. Why can't we play it with Raikou, Zapdos, Iron Hands, or Suicune, Greninja, Palkia? HP, right? It's just that 230 versus the 200 or 210, or whatever it was, 220 isn't enough.
Also, the stadium's more consistent with the discard grab 2 energies out of your deck. Versus having to hit a generator or having to hit a Melanie.
Okay. Yes, and for me, the card of this tournament, I'm not sure about the format, but the card of this tournament is Radiant Charizard. For me, it is the key card of the format, and you can use on the 4th prize against Rory Moon, for example.
Okay, cool. Getting to the more general questions, but one more specific deck question. What is the highest placing a Mew will land? First, second, top 4, top 8, top 16? What do you all think? Where is the Mew going to... What's the best placing Mew going to be? Aaron, what do you think?
We'll give it to Mew this time. We'll give him first.
First?
Yeah.
Sheesh. In
in
Charizard territory?
Oh no, we're just gonna do grabbers to the bottom and a nice judge if it misses. Like we're getting lucky this whole tournament.
Okay.
Use it.
I've been playing a lot of Charizard. One of my good friends plays Mew, and so we go to the tournaments all the time. And every time we play, he gets me. I'll have 3 or 4 turns where he's just taking prizes I can't answer, and then I'm halfway through the game I get a Charizard up and then I win. It's like. Or 2, I guess, and then you just beat it. But sometimes it doesn't always go like that in testing, but in the events, it's always gone that way. So, William, where's Mew gonna
land? We always have a share. Like in every event, it will be a Mew in top 8.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, any day. But I feel like you can beat the Charizard version. Actually, you can beat with the Judge Path version. You can beat Charizard with it, but you can beat with Meloetta, and you cannot beat Roaring Moon with Judge Path, but you can beat with Meloetta. So it's just
right.
It's a trick path, right? But for sure, top 8 for sure.
Okay, Jack, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you can't ever write Mew off. I think the format's a bit too volatile for it to win, though maybe that's a great format for me to be played in because you draw more cards than everyone, so you're just the most consistent deck in the room. But I feel like I'm gonna go with a top 8 as well. I feel like one will sneak into top 8, but there's just gonna be a bit too much for it to deal with in top 8. But yeah, I think you can't ever write Mew off. We've seen now that you literally cannot ever write Mew off. They've printed about 17 counters to it. It's won tournaments and top 8 tournaments when it shouldn't have even been played. It's insane.
You have to respect Mew, right?
Yeah.
Always.
William, what is the best deck out of Paradox Rift? Completely new deck. You got Cloth, Dingo,
$1 million question.
of the completely new archetypes, which one do you think is the best?
Oh, okay.
Cloth, Goldingo, Roaring Moon.
Roaring Moon. New
Moon.
archetypes is Roaring Moon. Yes, in my opinion, is Roaring Moon.
Aaron, what do you think is the most underrated deck in this format?
Out of bias, I want to say Goldingo because I do want to just put something in the active with a bunch of HP and Avery every turn. In reality, it's probably not as great as I want it to be, but we'll say it's there.
I'm a Goldingo.
So much fun. So much fun. I love Goldengo.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah.
Jack, if a player is having trouble choosing what deck to go with, what should they play for LAIC?
The answer's always the same for me. It's whatever you've been playing the most, probably what you've been playing in the 151 meta. I don't think anything tanks that hard from 151, really. I feel like everything that was good is still good, maybe a little bit worse than it was, but the percentage points you gain from knowing the deck you're playing is way better than trying to run matchup roulette and pick something that you think is good that you haven't tested. So the cop-out answer is that if you don't know what to play at all, I would like if you haven't been putting time into anything, you just need to pick up a deck. I'd probably go with Roaring Moon.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty linear. I think there's some nuance to it, and I think it definitely you will need the nuance to go super deep into a tournament. But I think it's a pretty safe pick. That and Miraidon I always feel like are pretty safe picks for points because they just they're pretty do what they try to do. Nothing too fancy and just super consistent decks generally.
Cool. All right, last question. What is the best deck that you will absolutely not play this weekend in LAIC? William, why don't you start?
Last box Giratina.
Okay. It's a good deck. Oh, I skipped a question.
I just don't trust Comfy.
Yeah, it's the comfies, and then you never like. I'll play so many games where I have 3 or 4 of my chorus in deck. I haven't seen one all game. I have 15 cards left in my deck. Still haven't hit a chorus. It's like,
Yeah.
why? Aaron, what's the best deck that you will not be playing this week?
Probably Charizard.
Come on, man.
It is very good, and I understand that. Why I do not play it. That's it.
All right. Jack, what's the best deck? Well, you can either just say what do you think is the best deck, or you can say what deck you will not be playing right off the bat.
I wouldn't be the best deck I wouldn't be playing is probably Chi and Power, because I think I'd play everything. I think that's the first deck in my list of top 10 that I wouldn't play. If I were going, I probably would play Tina, just because it's what I've played all of 151 and I haven't found a deck that I feel as comfy with. But if I wasn't playing Tina, I think probably Guard of War or Roaring Moon. I think those 3 are like head and shoulders the best 3 decks in format right now in a pretty underdeveloped meta. I don't think it will last. I think Tina will very quickly fall out of favor, but I'd play it for exactly this weekend just from comfortability.
Okay. And I lied. I skipped one question. What is the best Lost Box deck in the new format? Sounds like a couple Tina callers out here, but we also have, Sable Zard that's really good against Tina. It seems like it has a lot of good matchups right now with the big basics. William, is Lost Tina the best in format of the?
Yeah, I think so. Yes. The counter catch for Roxanne path is just too good.
Aaron?
Yeah, Tina's probably the best. It has the most resilience to like an Iron Hands versus just being able to play. Because if there was an Iron Hands, I would want to just play like a bunch of Sableye, Devolutors, and just create a checkmate.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that you can be Iron Hands twice just kind of ends that one.
Mm-hmm. Jack?
Yeah, agree. I think I'm a bit biased because I've been playing Tina for like 4 months now, but I still think it's great. I think it's got answers to everything, and even if the answer is just, like you say, Roxanne Path, now you also get to weave in a boss with it technically as well. It's absurd. But I also have a soft spot for Sablezard as well. So, and again, like William says, I think the cheat code for at least the first couple of weeks is Radiant Charizard. So, yeah, playing Sablezard sounds like great fun.
Mm-hmm. I think it's Sablezard. I think the format is so good for it right now. It's going to be the highest placing Lost Box in the tournament. Charizard's insane in this format. So,
yeah,
that's what I'm going to say. But thank you all so much. Let's do, if you have any shout outs or, like you coach or anything that you want to put out there. Jack, why don't you start?
Yeah, like I mentioned at the top, just OmniPoke. I'm also Jollylocks on Twitter and socials. It should be somewhere on the screen. And yeah, other than that, good luck to everyone playing in LAIC this weekend. I'm really excited to watch. I think I might try and go to a cup this weekend just to play some Paradox format, but if not, I've got put the Poland regionals the week after. So I'm going to be watching LAIC very carefully to work out what on earth I'm going to play. It's so scary having a tournament 1 week after an IC because I haven't bought any cards yet. I haven't I do not know what I'm doing. I guess I only really need to buy Roaring Moons from the new set, and the two Iron Hands maybe. But yeah, good luck to everyone playing. It's going to be a great watch, I think.
Aaron.
No personal shoutouts. If I were to give advice, check out OmniPoke and Seagrove, my two idols, and also check out Pokebook if you want to see the Japanese list, keep up to date on what people might be playing. And then yeah, thanks for having me. I was happy. It's nice to be here.
Yes, sir. Thanks for coming. And William.
Shout out to everyone coming to Brazil. I hope you have a good time. It's really hot in Brazil right now, so be prepared. We're almost in summer, so be aware of that. And shout out to my sponsor, Ilusões dos Dice. And thanks everyone for watching.
All right, thank you so much. Good luck, everybody.